throw a danny plug out there because it won't make. You know, what's the alternative to that situation?
Okay, so the question is under rough conditions, hard onshore wind, fishing 10 to 12 feet of water at the end of my cast, and I'm going to throw, as I mentioned in my talk, probably a super strike bottle plug because it cuts the wind, it digs into those conditions. What are the alternatives? In terms of plugs, I might try a North Bar, bottle darter, a darter. I would probably be bouncing between those three plugs: a bottle plug, a darter, and a bottle darter. So.
And if you reel it in, if you stay with the bottle plug swimmer, what do you just slow it down away from the
Well, you know what's going to happen in those circumstances in terms of when it gets in close like that. If it's rough, there's going to be some sweep. So I will have already probably slowed down the retrieve to account for the sweep. And one thing I'm really feeling for is with that particular plug and a graphite rod and braided line, you're going to feel that thump, 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 and I'm going to be pretty focused on trying to maintain that bump, bump, bump. And you know what? Yeah, when it gets in close, it is going to tap the bottom. But I'm still going to try and keep that rhythmic bumping of the tip that tells me that plug is swimming correctly.
Are there any guides or outfitters out there in Montauk or anywhere around for the skishing? Take them out and first timers?
Well, I usually take people skish as a guide skishing, but you have to take the Vito Orlando test before you do that, and that's walking from ditch plains to the point and back without wheezing. If you can do that, then sure, I'll take you.
Hey, I got a question for all three of you in light of Bruce's. So Bruce tells this story historically, scientifically, about how he recognizes the depletion of bunker on the East Coast. I'd love to hear from all three of you a really brief sort of narrative on what you've noticed in your careers fishing with your own eyes about the depletion of bunker and what it was like or what you've been seeing lately. So just a quick sort of narrative of your own views of the bunker situation from your own perspective.
Good question.
Well, when I started this whole crazy surf casting thing, which was late 70s, early 80s, the bunker were 10 times the size they are now. And they would wash up on the beach. You'd see 8 and 10-inch bunker washing up on the beach. And along with those fish, this would be right at the lighthouse in a north wind. There would be 100 guys on the beach fishing there. Birds would be all over the place. And along with that, there were 40 and 50-pound bass, and it was a constant thing. Now what we're seeing out of Montauk is we're seeing peanut bunker, wind bunker come in. And again, they're washing up on the beach, but they look like silver dollars. What you see in them are 8 to 10-pound bass. Okay, so there's tons of them. You catch them by the truckload, but the thrill is not there. So what it is that we miss the big fish. We miss the big fish out there feeding on the bunker or the herring, and any of the bait stocks are all disappearing out there. Anything that tastes good on a plate or makes things grow, that's disappearing.
How about you, Bruce?
Yeah, well, I did mention in the talk that when we passed that bill in New Jersey in 2001, banning the menhaden reduction industry, we did see a comeback, but that was temporary. That's gone. There are many symptoms. Raritan Bay, dependably, we used to be able to go out between in Arthur Kill when we wanted to snag. I don't know if should I be talking about bait fishing here.
Yeah,
I mean,
nobody's
nobody's
going to think bad things, right?
I mean, we're not hanging you today because you fished from a boat, but that's okay.
So we used to reliably go out to snag bunker there, and they would be thick. They're hardly there anymore. There are a number of people who make a living cast netting for bait for sale on the Jersey Shore. I interviewed some of these guys, and they said they can't make a living anymore. I mean, it's that kind of symptom. in the fall migration, we used to see large schools of bunker coming down off the Jersey Shore. Last year we were doing late fall fishing during the striper migration. You couldn't fish on the surface. We had to fish at 65 feet down on the bottom there because they were feeding exclusively on sand eels. The bunkers weren't there. So it's that kind of simple. But as I said in passing, stock assessment, there's a lot more ignorance than knowledge when it comes to actually figuring out what is the population. And let me just add one thing. I was on a panel at a big conference of all these environmental organizations who were going to fund, and it was all about forage fish. And of course, I was talking about menhaden. There was somebody talking about Atlantic herring. There was somebody actually talking about Antarctic